My name is Jackie Staley, and this is a reflection for the fifth Sunday of Lent, the raising of Lazarus. Picture with me this scene. Jesus has just arrived at the home of Martha and Mary, and their brother Lazarus has just died. There are friends and neighbors around too. Now, Jesus loved Lazarus, so the Gospels tell us this. Jesus began to weep. And then the friends and neighbors all gathered around said, "See how he loved him." Those lines show the human part of Jesus. And in the Gospel of John, there tends to be more of a stress by John on the divinity of Jesus, obviously needed at the time that the gospel was written. But we're concentrating a little more on the human part of Jesus. He showed us a God whose very heart is wrung with anguish, who hurts like we do. The greatest thing that Jesus did for us was to bring us the news of a God who cares. How fortunate are we to have Jesus, who shows us what God values, what God holds dear. A writer named Rachel Held Evans tells us, quote, "We could not become like God, so God became like us. God showed us how to heal instead of kill, how to mend instead of to destroy, how to love instead of hate, how to live instead of longing for more." End of quote. The humanness of Jesus can be a source of comfort, especially when we need some comfort. He understands our feelings because he too felt hurts deeply. Why did Jesus then raise Lazarus from the dead, which would be the accent on the divinity of Jesus? Well, Jesus tells us in his own words. He's speaking to the Father. "Father, I know that you always hear me. I want them to believe that you sent me." Jesus wanted to show concretely that he is sent from God. He's not an imposter. We can identify with Jesus and his trust and care for us. Everything Jesus did and said was to help us to love one another as he has loved us.
Hi, I'm Tony Staley. I like the story of Lazarus because it brings hope by showing that Jesus, who wept when he heard that Lazarus had died, loves us and brings us new life. I believe that we're called to live the Gospels. Now, that's a tough one in the case of Lazarus. I have never raised anybody from the dead. I know that there are doctors, nurses, emergency technicians, lifeguards who have done that in some cases, but I am none of those things. More than 40 years ago, I was living in a town of about 5,000 people. One of the people was a man who looked like he was homeless, except he had a house. But his house was in terrible shape, as was the man. The man's father had been a workaholic, and when the man was a young boy, his father died, and his mother swore that no son of hers was going to suffer a similar fate. So for the rest of his life, he didn't work. He lived at home with his mother, and he read magazines and newspapers, which he piled up in the house, and he borrowed books from the library, and that's how he lived. And then one day, his mother died, and he just went into downhill more and more, as did the house that he lived in. Because his decaying house was near downtown, many people saw it regularly, and the man too. And his clothes were as bad as the house. Finally, one day, the members of a Christian church decided that instead of shaking their heads or ignoring him, they would do something positive, something Christian, something neighborly. They went in and hauled out piles of magazines and newspapers. They fixed and painted the house, replaced broken windows, got the man new clothes, and gave him new possibilities, a new life. So, did man turn his life around, become a model citizen, perhaps even the mayor? Well, that's not the point. The point is what these Christians did by working together to give the man a chance at a new life. So what did happen to him? Well, I moved from the town soon after, and I don't know. But we don't know what happened to Lazarus after Jesus raised him from the dead, or to anyone that Jesus healed. Jesus gave people a chance at a new life. What came next, the rest of their story, was up to them. Today, it's up to us to go and do as Jesus did, to be neighbors and good Samaritans, to love one another,